my kittens. This is Our Cat's Gay, and I'm going to be talking about how an anti-sex trafficking bill will negatively affect gay men. Oh, and also open the door to usher in a new era of internet surveillance and permanently alter the internet at large. There's been some talk about how the Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act, or FOSTA, will hurt sex workers. And while I think that sex work, can we please just call it prostitution, should be legalized and regulated, because like with alcohol and cigarettes, regulating things makes it harder for it to be abused by criminals. This does not apply to Crocs, however, which should be banned under international law, and those that wear them forced to become fruitarians. I'm not going to talk about that because I find sex work activists, like all activists, annoying and unlikely to affect change. FOSTA is already starting to tear the internet apart. Yes, it sounds on the surface that it's a good thing. Sex trafficking is an abominable crime, in my opinion, on par essentially with any top-tier crime like rape or murder. But the way the bill is structured will go so far beyond any reasonable measure of freedom or expression that we might as well take the US Constitution, roll it up, and literally use it to fuck people up the ass. Hyperbolic? Barely. For those who don't know, the bill essentially alters the legal definition of liability in regards to sex trafficking, not just to the users engaged in it, but now also to the host website, even if the website has no knowledge of said trafficking and has policies against it. Now this is fairly abstract, so let me ground this idea. Imagine there is an illegal brothel in an apartment complex where underage people are being used and sold as sex slaves. Under traditional liability, only the resident of the apartment and the traffickers are responsible. The apartment complex is not responsible for the actions of its residents unless they had knowledge of their actions and did not report it to authorities. Under the FOSTA model, the apartment complex is now responsible for the actions of its residents with or without knowledge, and if the sex trafficking occurred on their property, they most likely will be fined or criminally charged. I'm not exaggerating this. Backpage.com, the second largest classifieds website after Craigslist, years ago had an adult work section, which was basically an assortment of escort/massage services, i.e. prostitution plus. This was deemed to be illegal, and accordingly Backpage shut down the section. In response to this, those using those services simply moved over to the personal section and used code words. Backpage was recently seized by the government. Now you may be thinking, I've never used a prostitute, so I don't care. Or, well, prostitution runs in tandem with sex trafficking, so that's fine, I guess. But if you do, you're not thinking it all the way through. Because the platforms themselves are now liable, broad surveillance and censorship are already emerging. Craigslist has shut down its entire personal section preemptively because they cannot afford to take the risk of what people may do with their service. The furry's personal site, Pounced, has basically shut down entirely because they cannot monitor every user and prevent abuses of their policies. Now right there, you should be concerned. And not just because there are furry dating sites, but because that is basically the only way for an online interactive forum to avoid legal entanglements from what its users do by monitoring everything they do. Coming back to the apartment brothel, imagine that an apartment complex or hotel, in order to avoid liability for sex trafficking on their premises, had to install cameras in every room. Don't worry, they're only looking for sex abuse. So all of this is a giant Orwellian nightmare, but what does it have to do with gay men? Well, gay men use online hookup services a lot, and I would imagine even more, and more successfully than straight men or women, because our community is hypersexual. The other reason many gays use services like Grindr, Scruff, or Craigslist is because we are a minority in the population, and they make it a lot easier to find each other, particularly in rural areas where people are more spread out, and there aren't gay bars on every corner. Services like Craigslist that do not make very much money cannot afford to do this, so they opt out entirely. Grindr can probably afford to do it, but imagine Grindr reading each and every one of your messages and sharing your information with authorities for any reason that might be vaguely construed as sex trafficking. And on a platform like Grindr, where sex is the whole deal, that could be just about anything. If you want a bleak look into the possible and not too far a future, look to China, where the largest social media site in the nation, Sina Weibo, plans to scrape gays from their service entirely as part of a 3-month cleanup effort. Beware, my kittens, because in the name of protecting our children, who knows what's next? That's it for now. If you enjoyed this, hit that bell so that you always know what I'm doing. And be sure to check me out on the Gaytriarchy podcast every Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard. Like, subscribe, love it, hate it. You already watched it. You can't unwatch it. Thank you for watching.